Not even unfettered. Because, you see, as far as I know, there is no, the president is not an accounting officer of any of our votes. So he has no access. The way consolidated funds is operated is fast. Unless it is CFS, Parliament must appropriate. And the appropriation, and you cannot, even myself, I cannot approve any money, even the controller of budget, even the Auditor General, even the President cannot approve any money that is not appropriated by Parliament, except under Article 223, which again is clearly spelled out in the Constitution how I have the power to appropriate it. And the same Constitution speaks to how then I report the same to Parliament for post facto approval. And I will tell you that the period that I've sat in this seat, I have never seen President asking for any expenditure or asking for any access to the consolidated fund. The President, as anyone would expect, may, because he's the head of government, he's the head of state, he is accountable to the people of Kenya. Issues that come up that are of concern, he would be involved. And when he's involved, he would invite me for a discussion, and we would discuss and agree that yes, this one we can finance.
Just do an audit and look at who has been given the money. You'll see that there is a bias in terms of how these funds are given. I don't know whether we're using data on the poverty index and things like those, or are those decisions political? And my request would be that if there's a way you would have an influence on to how these conditional grants are shared nationally, then there should be fairness and equity in terms of trying to deal with the historical injustice issues. Because there are some people who are getting money and others have never got. And that creates a lot of infighting within our committees, because people are like, why did you get money and yet last year and the year before and yet us have never, even though that money is a continuum. Some of those funds came 5 years ago. But I was looking at, if you could look at the audit in your reforms and figure out a matrix on how you're going to distribute the money fairly and equitably to all the counties. Thank you.
To write on that, just allow me, because the issue of equity that he's raising, I have also been looking at the way development funds are deployed. I've been looking at affirmative action fund, and CS, I'm inviting you to go and look at how the affirmative action funds have been deployed in this country. And in my view, for somebody who practices human rights, I find it so disturbing that the principle of equity is not being used. The Women Enterprise Fund, for instance, you have a county that received only 50,000. You have another county that received 240-something million. Another one, and in the same region, another one 67 million. Another one 40. So you find one region has received nearly 400 million, another region less than 10 million. Now, I have spoken, I've engaged with the implementers of that fund. And of course, they'll come up and say, these people did not come up to take the fund. And I went further to ask, do you have funds to facilitate training for Baringo so that Baringo can also have a better uptake? Training for Migori so that they can have a better uptake? Training for Busia? And they tell me, no, we have zero provision for training because Parliament cut off our money and we only have money for salaries. And I was like, why have an affirmative action fund that exacerbates inequalities?
Yeah, so for the affirmative action funds, agree, you know, there were these funds when they were first created, there was uniformity or equity, so to speak, including the Youth Enterprise Fund, Women Enterprise Fund. I remember at one point, there are regions which repayment was very good, so they then got the advantage of getting more allocation. But I would agree with you that probably over the years, the discretion that is applied by the boards that manage these funds have been misused. So it's something that may need to be relooked into. Senator, I agree with you. I've taken note of that. On the issue of conditional grants, you know, the conditional grants, like even for this year or the last financial year, I've checked. There are different types of conditional grants. Some conditional grants are applied uniformly across the counties to implement a national government project that is implementing the manifesto of the political party. For example, under universal health care, there is also the county integrated industrial parks, aggregated industrial parks, KIPES. This one, the agreement was to start with the 13, then bring more and more and more. So depending on how you move, because it's a counterpart, there was counterpart funding. So some counties came on board, 13 of them, some even came and started ahead. So right now, the 13 are going on, some are nearing completion. I think the best is at over 80%. Migori used to be the best. Now it's number 2. I think I can't remember number 1 is which county in terms of implementation. There are others like Wajir County, which were not in the first cohort of 13. They came up and started and spent their own money. So you know you can't leave that one behind. So now, instead of going to the next cohort of 13, we have added 21. So we have 13 plus 21, that is 34. So we are going that way. And the amount applied is uniform for all the counties. So that one, there is no problem. But then there are also others like libraries, funds, etc., which we have also to share. There is one for county headquarters. Some assessment was done, and specific counties were, pardon? Yeah, 5 counties were supposed to be funded. But now there are development funded conditional grants, which my understanding is that some negotiation takes place and the development partners express interest in certain specific areas. I know it's my ministry that coordinates all external resource mobilization. I will check if there is any biasness, but I thought it has not been reported to me from counties, especially from the governors, that there is inequity in the way those development partners are financing the conditional grants. I thought it is smooth and seamless. But if there are concerns, then we would address it, because I am one person who believes in equity. Actually, in this country, I keep on giving this example. Let me not bore you with it, but it is the reality on the ground. You go to Tana River and find the children are crossing the river to go to school and eaten by crocodile. 62 years into independence. Yeah, and we find nothing wrong with that. And the mistake of these children is they are trying to look for education. And what they need to help them save their lives is government investment of 100 million. Yet you find billions of shillings going to one specific constituency. Honestly, to provide, even over-provide. You know, when we wanted to give 50 million per constituency for electrification, some MPs said that, what will I do with that money? Because they are almost 100% connected. And yet you come to my constituency and you find it was at 46%. You come to another constituency, it is at 10%. That is the kind of inequality. And this inequality, we cannot continue blaming the leaders of the past. We are continuing with it. We must just put a break to it and ensure there may be no equality, but let there be equity. So that at least if one county gets 2 billion for roads, because maybe they are very much backward, I would also see some 800 million in my county. But having 6 billion in one county, and which county already has even more roads tarmacked, and you have 50 million in another county, It is unfair, and that is why we cannot develop a cohesive nation. That is why you hear people, if their person is not in power, then that is not a government. And that will not stop unless we are deliberate and we ensure that we apply equity so that it doesn't matter who leads this country, so long as that person can bring good governance and all of us share or partake in the national cake. There was the last question that I was asked by Honorable Onyonka on unclaimed assets. Unclaimed assets has a lot of issues that I think I must reform. One, what was the objective? Even before we go to discuss, the objective of unclaimed assets was not to accumulate resources and put in treasury bills and treasury bonds. It was supposed to help trace and connect these assets back to the beneficiaries. But it appears that has been lost. I know we are now recruiting a new CEO. The moment he gets into office or she gets into office, whoever will be recruited, then we must carry out extensive reforms. This is now one of the richest parastatal in Kenya in terms of resources. And I don't think that is the way we want to go. We want unclaimed assets to be reconnected to the beneficiaries. There are people who are destitute, people who are going berserk in town because they have no way to survive, and their parents left billions of shillings behind, and they can't access it because they don't know. Yeah. So let me leave it there, Honorable Onyonka. In terms of devolving, yeah.
This is about these 18 parastatals that have been either dissolved or merged, and they are supposed to go. They are actually recommended by the cabinet to go to counties. But up to now, no action has been taken, and I think you are still giving them some funds. And some of them are supposed to be resolved, some are supposed to be merged, some are supposed to go to counties. So what's the position of those parastatals? There were 18.
Now, the parastatal reforms is ongoing, and we are going to conclude it in this financial year. You know, again, Chairman, there are certain challenges that we have also to deal with, because one of them is most of these parastatals, the total is 47, going through different restructuring process. Some are going to be dissolved completely. Some are going to go back to the line ministries. Some have devolved functions, which must be surrendered. But you know, we have even staff issues to deal with. There are other liabilities to deal with. So we are, with the team that is working on this, has really made very good progress. And maybe one time, if you invite me to come with a comprehensive answer, I would on the same. But I will tell you, we are making very good progress. There are also a few challenges, like this water. This one is called water. This one of water. There's one of them, the Water Trust Fund. Yes. When it was supposed to be taken back to the ministry, but we realized if we do that, there may be a problem. So we are slowing down on that, because the donors, the development partners, it is exclusively funded, actually, in terms of development budget, from the development partners. And the development partners are the ones who said they want to deal with a standalone institution, not the ministry. So we may lose those funds. And those are
CS, on that issue, I think your legal team need to advise you, because IGRTC purportedly moved the functions of the 18 parastatals to counties. No funds were followed those functions. So you have a legal position where the functions of those counties, of those parastatals, are apparently now in counties. But those parastatals continue to move, and there is a cabinet resolution to absorb them. My question is, to absorb them to do what? Because if the functions have been devolved, you're talking about even moving them either to an inter-county institution, if they choose to, or actually only retaining those that will be handling a national function, which will be minimal of that. I think that is not neat, and it has left counties wondering why are we being given functions and the funds are not there. In my silly, I never did well in your, I was not an accountant. I imagine that the basic funds that were in this parastatal would at the very least be the beginning minimum that would need to be added to the equitable share to go to counties now that they've been given the function. I suggest CS that the team on this seriously look at that so that we don't have a repeat of that, what I call not very neat legal position around this issue.
Yeah, so, Chairman, to respond to Senator Catherine's concerns, I understand you, and maybe on this matter we may appear and give a comprehensive answer. I know that there are functions that have been transferred to the counties, and we gave the intergovernmental, we gave them the 30 days when we last met at IBEC to do the costings. But we have a challenge. Funding of the same may come from 2026 because we have already budgeted for 2025, 2026. So the funding may be a challenge, but that's something that we are going to discuss once we see the costings. But again, on these state-owned enterprises, you know, one of the reasons why we are doing away with some of them is because they have been a drain to our exchequer. And so if we may look at how then, if we are transferring them to counties and transferring the money, is it solving our problems? Because we want to save the money. We feel they should not operate. But we'll see, we'll look at how best to, if there are some that are going to discharge their functions at the counties, how best then to facilitate that, have enough resources for them to run in those counties. But most of them, apart from the personnel emoluments, some of them just go. Some of them will just disappear. You know, we have kept in our books and so many, let me not use a very strong word, but not very value-adding. I'm trying to look for a softer word. Value-adding state-owned enterprises or institutions as state-owned enterprises. To the extent you find we even have professional bodies, some of them. You belong, Senator Catherine, to Law Society of Kenya. It's not a parastatal. It's not being funded. I belong to Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It's not being funded by exchequer. Yet you get another engineers, they have been, is a parastatal. So you ask, what is this? And many others. And then you find the same place. You know, when you have something like a water harvesting authority, and then you have National Irrigation Authority, and there is a lot of pushback. They still believe that those are supposed to be maintained. But now, if you are harvesting water, why can't you use it to irrigate? You know, that's what we are asking. We merge the two, and we have water harvesting and irrigation authority as one. So you harvest water, you put it somewhere, then someone comes now to use it for irrigation. You know, I think we have been too liberal. And there was a time, actually we have been around for a while. I think with Onyonka we are the longest here in this room as politicians and members of parliament. Maybe not as politicians, but as members of parliament, because a politician is a very wide terminology. But we have seen every legislation in parliament was coming with the creation of a new body. And that is what brought us to where we are. Lastly, the reforms are many. We have just passed through the cabinet a government-owned enterprises bill, which talks or speaks to how now we are going to run and manage commercially viable government enterprises. 60 of them, or about 60. We must run them different from the way we are running the SOEs, where after I've failed as a politician, I become automatic chair of one state-owned enterprise or another, or a board member. Let's have a system where board membership is earned on merits, and we bring in private sector to complement the public, the government, in running some of these institutions to be able to run. Look at what is happening with Safaricom. Suppose we left it in the hands of the government. Where would we be? Kenyan is doing much better now because of the element of that practice. And even look at Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Power and Lighting Company. It has come up now. So we are looking at KPC, Kenya Pipeline. I hear people say, oh, this is a state, what terminology they use? State, like a state security, something strategic. In fact, that's what I was looking. This is a strategic investment. These people are just helping us to sell oil in the country and mafuta. Yeah. Actually, basically transporting. Because actually the people who import mafuta ni watu wengine. So they just keep in there and then they help us in distribution. Yeah, it can be done very well if there is element of private sector. I'm happy the top management of KPC are sold to this idea. And yeah, so let me not belabor the point. I think we've had a good engagement. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the only thing that I want to know is the time frame.
We have agreed that we need to make some regulations for the BVM Acts to be changed. Is that in order?
Yeah.
Is that correct? So how long?
That is correct. Especially to capture the.
Yes.
Yes.
So how long? How much time do you require for these regulations? There are many, I know. You know, if we don't do them, we are going to lose a lot of money.
CS, I think he's talking about the time frame.
For us to put those regulations
For BVM.
for Parliament's consideration,
Yes.
I don't think that should take as long. That can take like 2 months.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, so
I think,
probably take note of that.
I think there have been no other business. I think I want to, on behalf of the committee, to thank you so much. Actually, there's been very, very open discussion. I think most of the CS don't do that, and therefore, because you are a politician, I know that's why you open so much. So thank you so much, Uziri, and I have a pleasure to see you again. And the committee will work with you and everybody else so that we see the Devolution works.
More radio.